Hello everybody, I am Lauren Murdock, your residential realtor, and I'm here today with Joseph Cubas of appraisalzoom.com, and he's going to answer some questions about the appraisal process. Okay, so Joseph, the first question I think we should establish is, what is an appraisal inspection?
Okay, I'm going to answer that by first saying what an appraisal is not. An appraisal is not a home inspection. So we're not going to be crawling through the attic of the home or the crawl spaces. We're not going to be really checking the appliances. Unless it's an FHA appraisal, then at that point we do a head and shoulder inspection of those items. An appraisal is pretty much a visual observation of the home. So we want to make sure that the home is marketable, that it's in good condition, has upgrades, and that there's really no health and safety issues that could affect the occupants that would be moving into the home.
That makes sense. And what are some items that are necessary on all home sales in LA County, right? We definitely need smoke and CO2 detectors in place, right? Is there anything else? And what specifically needs to be there?
Yeah, well, we do definitely need the smoke detectors per code, and that would be pretty much in every room. And you need a carbon monoxide detector for each floor. So if it's a two-story home, you need to make sure you have one on the second story also. The water heater has to be to code. These are things that not just appraisers look for, but the lenders require us to verify. The water heater needs to have the earthquake straps. And for FHA, they need to have a pressure relief valve pipe on it. And then anything that would affect the health and safety of the occupants. If we see something that could be an issue, then at that point, that's something the appraiser has the liberty to be able to point out.
That's good to know. And are those things also necessary to point out when you're doing a refi appraisal, or is that only for a home sale?
No, that would be for all appraisals, including the refis.
So good to know, homeowners, get your smoke and CO2 detectors in place and your water heater braced and strapped. What should a homeowner do to prepare for their appraisal inspection during a sale of their property?
Well, the first thing they should do is kind of prepare the home the same way you would for an open house. You want to make sure the home is presentable, everything is neat and orderly. An appraiser actually does a visual observation of your home. So we are judging the home the way it actually is and the condition that the property is in.
That's good to know. How should an agent prepare for the appraisal appointment during a sale of a property?
That's a very good question. An agent should actually provide a lot of information to the appraiser as far as what actual information they needed to support the value of the sale, with comparables, any let's say amenities the property has that actually sold the property, where if the property has a very nice view, you want to go ahead and include state that to the appraiser. If it's on a larger than typical size lot for the area, location, if it's on a cul-de-sac quiet street, those type of things that sold the property to your buyers, that's what you would want to point out to the appraiser.
That's good to know. So how about this? On my recent sale, and this was one that you actually came to appraise, the homeowners had done a lot since they bought the property. So within the last 5 years, they upgraded the kitchen, all the bathrooms, they replaced windows. Are those sort of things that an appraiser should know about, that the agent should be telling them while they're there?
Absolutely. As an appraiser, we'll make notes on these things as we go through, but a lot of times appraisers are busy and they're probably seeing more than one property. So if you could have a list of the amenities that they've done or any improvements that they've done, go ahead and include when they did it, an approximate total value of the improvements, where if they spend $100,000 on their upgrades or remodeling, you want to go ahead and include that, and approximately when they did it, if it's been within the last couple of years or even if it was very recent. Something like that would definitely be helpful.
Good to know, homeowners and agents. You should be prepping for your appraisal appointments like this. Okay, next question. What would be something that would help a homeowner increase the value of their home?
If they wanted to do a new addition or something where they could add value to their property? Okay. The best return on investment when it comes to properties is a ADU.
Okay.
would be currently right now, that's what gives you the best return on your investment.
Amazing.
And of course, depending on the cost of the ADU, there's certain ADUs that are junior ADUs, which are just garage conversions. At those point, those don't cost that much to do, but you're still looking at maybe $50,000 to $75,000. You almost get a full dollar per dollar return on your investment.
Amazing.
The actual full ADU, which could be a detached property, those cost a little more. They're within the 100 to 200,000, and those kind of go the same way.
Almost
So,
dollar for dollar.
Dollar for dollar on your
Amazing.
return on investment. And when it comes to other things that you want to do, because you don't have the lot size for an ADU, then the things that add value to your property are remodeled kitchen and bathrooms, flooring, windows, paint, anything that kind of modernizes your property would be the best thing to do to your property.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about, can you tell us a couple things that actually bring down the value of the property in the appraiser's eyes?
If there's repairs that need to be done on the property, where the condition of the property, the kitchens are original, those usually bring down the value of a property. The location of a property is very important. Of course, you can't move the location of your property.
Right.
But as an agent, if you're pricing a home and your subject property backs to a busy street, a freeway, or has some type of external obsolescence that other homes do not in the neighborhood, we would, as appraisers, would make an adjustment for that. So that's an important factor to take into consideration.
That makes sense. Okay, how about this? Homeowners often get a different appraisal value when they are selling their property versus when they're doing a refi. Why is that?
Well, when you're doing a sale is actually the true definition of market value, is what someone's willing to pay for a property, and in an open market. And at that point, as an appraiser, we have that figure that we're working towards, let's say, to be able to justify the appraisal for the lender purposes. When it comes to a refi, we're actually trying to estimate what the property would sell for on an open market. So for that reason, and it depends on the appraiser and current market conditions, what are currently happening, where when you have a limited inventory and the values are, let's say, increasing, then values typically, appraisers could be a little more aggressive on the values that they come in for refis. But the same thing applies for an appraisal for a refi purpose. You still want to be able to have the property very presentable, almost stage your home, have it cleared, have the kitchen cabinets closed, presentable, let's say.
Yeah, have it in nice condition. And of course, if you're doing a refi, you don't have a realtor with you, but maybe you yourself as the homeowner will be there for the appraiser and let them know, hey, these are the great things I've done to upgrade my property. You could even write a list, maybe have that ready to hand over so that they have a better idea.
Absolutely.
Right?
And if you feel there's anything else that supports a higher value for the neighborhood that the appraiser might not be aware of, then those are the things you might want to point out to the appraiser too.
Absolutely. Now, I know there's a lot of homeowners out there that have really personalized their homes, and maybe they did beautiful updates, but they were 20 or more years ago, and they're not really up to date with what's happening currently. When you see a home like that, they've obviously done updates, but they're not current. Does that help them with their appraisal, or is that just kind of like probably needs to be redone?
It would probably have to be redone if they're looking to maximize the value. A lot of the sales within the area, let's say, if the higher sales are recent remodeled homes, then those are the comparables we use. But if the sales that are, let's say, a little less than those sales, and those are homes that have some upgrades, but yet they were done a few years ago.
Yeah,
Then
older
at that
upgrades.
point, yes, we have to compare apples with apples. So that's how we determine the value of the property. So that's where it will reflect towards that.
That makes sense. Okay, next question, Joseph. Why are they not consistent? So one appraiser gives one value, another appraiser gives another. Why is that?
Well, the appraisal process is not a science, it's an actual art. And appraisals are subjective. So you could have different appraisers who come in with different values. Now, the appraisal process that we do is based on the knowledge of the appraiser, but there's nothing set on the comparables appraisers use. So each appraiser uses their own comparables, and for that reason you get different values within appraisers. That's why it's important for an agent to point out this information to appraisers when they actually meet appraisers, as far as what's happening within that neighborhood, so that appraisers will be able to utilize the correct comparables.
That makes sense. Now, what if you're in a transaction and you get an appraisal back and it doesn't seem like they got the value correct? Maybe they weren't looking at the right comps or something. Is there anything that somebody can do? Can we contest an appraisal?
Absolutely. You would be able to contact the person that reached you for the appraisal, which could be an AMC or a direct lender. Give them a call and ask them for the process on doing it. Each lender and AMC has their own process for rebuttaling an appraisal value. And pretty much you would have to provide some comparables that you would think are more ideal and more similar to the subject to be able to do that. And it's very important to go ahead and do that also.
And when you do an appraisal contest, do you, or when you're contesting the appraisal, do you have the same appraiser look at that new information, or do you get a new appraiser that's now looking at the info?
No, the management company or the lender will take your information and submit that to the appraiser for reconsideration.
Okay.
And at that point, it would have a statement on why you think these comparables are more similar to the subject and should have been utilized in the analysis. Then that's what you would want to do. However, I always suggest never start your statement with the appraiser did not know what he was doing.
Don't want to offend the appraiser.
No, because there is that possibility the appraiser will take your information into consideration. So, but if you provided a lot of this information to the appraiser beforehand,
you shouldn't come into this issue.
You shouldn't have this issue. So you always want to prepare for the appraiser.
Absolutely. So next question. As an agent or as a homeowner getting an appraisal on their own, what are some things that you should say to the appraiser?
Well, the things you should say to an appraiser is the facts about
Goodness,
the home.
you look nice today.
Well, absolutely. You want to be friendly, and you want to tell them keep all the conversation with facts about the home and the neighborhood. What's so special about the neighborhood? What you've done to your property? What's so special about your home? Never try to discuss the value with the appraiser. Never try to push the appraiser to hit a specific value, because then you would be in violation of USPAP, which is what actually governs us. But pretty much just keep it all facts of the appraisal, provide the information, and you should be fine.
Okay, that's good to know. What should agents be providing to the appraiser for a successful appraisal appointment?
That's a very good question, and it's an important one, because the more information you provide to the appraiser, the easier it would become for an appraiser. One of the first things you want to provide for the appraiser is counteroffers. Any counteroffers there is, because we get the purchase contract from the management company that's ordering the appraisal, and they don't always include the counteroffers. So the last thing you want is for us to come in at the value of the purchase contract and not realize that there's a counteroffer there and have to adjust for that. So if there's any counteroffers, you want to bring that to the attention of the appraiser. Let him know what is the latest offer and how many, and if there's any counteroffers.
Okay.
Okay, because that's important for the appraiser to know that the value that you sold the property at had multiple counteroffers. Okay, now you don't need to provide those to the appraiser. The next thing would be a list of all the upgrades that the property has, and an approximate estimate of what it costs to do these improvements. You need to kind of sell the property to the appraiser as if you were having a potential buyer there, as far as the view amenities the property has, the larger than typical lot, the pool amenity, any amenities, any upgrades that you feel added value to the property. You're the one that entertained a lot of people coming in. What sold the property to these potential buyers? What did everybody fall in love with?
Right.
That's what you want to point out to the appraiser. Number 3 would be if you did a pre-listing appraisal, provide a copy of the appraisal. If there's an appraisal that was done on the property, provide a copy of that to the appraiser.
So maybe one that was a recent refi appraisal.
That is correct.
Okay.
A recent refi. Appraisers, we need to measure a home and sketch out the floor plan, but if we could get a report that has the floor plan, that's always a helpful stuff for us to use. It'll make our jobs a little easier. We'll still verify the dimensions, but yet the floor plan will all be laid out for us.
Ready for you. So
Yes.
if you're an agent and you've done the floor plan already, maybe you had that somebody hired out to do that as part of your listing prep, giving that floor plan to the appraiser sounds like it'd be very helpful.
Absolutely. And the last thing you would do, and I need to look at this,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, here you go. And the last thing as an agent you would want to provide for the appraiser is some comparables, CMA. And I'm assuming all agents know how to do a CMA, which includes some listings, actives, and pending sales within the area. You want to be able to expand out no more than a mile from the subject property, include recent sales that are higher and lower than your sale price, let's say, and that are similar in square footage, approximately 25%, similar lot size, and similar amenities. That would be important for you to provide.
That makes sense.
Yes, you don't have to give a lot of information. I get a lot of agents that will almost give me a yellow pages book of data, but a simple CMA page that has just the basics, maybe 3-4 pages, and at that point, appraiser should already have that. And might not need it, but yet it gives us some ideas as
Something
what
to
you
refer
looked.
back to.
How you price the home is very important. So
Yeah.
that would also go a bit with the appraiser.
All right, another question, Joseph.
Yes.
What are some other reasons that somebody might need to have an appraisal done on their home if they're not selling and they're not getting a refi? What are other reasons?
Well, there's numerous reasons why someone would need an appraisal. If they're going through a divorce, their attorney might request for them to get an appraisal. You want to make sure you get a appraiser that knows the area. So you want to get a referral from, let's say, your agent for an appraiser. If your attorney asks you to order the appraisal. There's time of death appraisals. If there's a death in the family, you need to get an appraisal for tax purposes. And the most important one you would need an appraisal is for agent referral. So agents should agents should always have a go-to appraiser. So that way, if they ever need an appraisal where they have a challenging client that thinks their home is worth more than what market supports, you could order a pre-listing appraisal. And you just basically notify your client that, hey, maybe your home is so unique, we need to get an appraisal on it to determine what the property's realistic value is. And at that point, you could order that pre-listing appraisal and even have your client pay for it, or have it, negotiated within, the contract once you determine on the price you would list it.
That makes sense. That's a
Yes.
great reason.
And another good reason is a lot of times when a private use person or someone you sold, one of your previous clients, you sold their property to, they need an appraisal for a divorce, or time of death, or any other reason, they usually go to an agent. And as an agent, you never want to send them to Google for an appraiser, because if they don't do a good job with their appraisal, they'll be thinking of you, or they probably won't even consider you again. But if you tell them there's an appraiser that you work with and they know the area, then at that point it's important for you to have a referral to give to your clients.
Yes. One more quick question. At a time of death appraisal, do you know what the time frame is after the death that the family needs to get the appraisal done?
Typically it depends on, they should actually get it done within 6 months, because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. We have to use the appraisals, the time of death appraisals are dated as of the time of death. So most people don't realize they need this until maybe a few years down the line they decide they're going to sell the property, or the estate decides they're going to want to sell the property, they're not going to keep it. Then at that point, if it's 3 years or 6 years down the line, then it becomes a little more difficult to determine the value, and it'll be a little more costly in that. It could still be done, but it'll cost a little more.
Because you're having to go back and look at what values were maybe 3 years ago to figure out what the value was at time of death.
That is correct. And it's for tax purposes. The Uncle Sam wants to know from the time of death to when you decide to sell the property, the difference between those two values, are considered capital gains. So you would be taxed on the higher capital gains. So the more accurate the value you have to give to the IRS, the less capital gains you would hopefully be having to pay.
Things you need to know. So I'll plug myself in here, guys. I'm actually a probate certified realtor. So if you know anybody that has had a family member pass away and their property is owned in a trust, I can help them. But if they're not and it goes to probate, I can help as well. And it seems like Joseph would be a wonderful appraiser to call for that time of death appraisal.
So a question I have for you is, what do you hope for when you schedule an appointment with an appraiser? That type of appraiser you're going to get, let's say?
Well, I really hope for an appraiser that is nice, right? Somebody that's a pleasant to work with. I have had the experience of working with one time a very unpleasant person. So I always try to be on time for my appointment. I would hope the appraiser would be there on time as well. I would hope that they're friendly, especially to the homeowner. I would hope that they would take the information that I've gotten, like we talked about, the comps that I've provided and any information that I have on the property that has helped determine the value. I hope that they would take that packet and take a look at it, because I obviously did a lot of work to try to get the value where it is and sell the home for as much as possible, and we want it to come in at value. So if we're working together, hopefully that would be the outcome.
That is great, because I know most appraisers are not looking to kill your deal. We're here to help you and support, the information you do. So by you saying that you provide all that information, I think by you giving that stuff to the appraiser, have a nice smile on your face, I think that would go a long way with the appraiser.
Absolutely.
So.
Yes. Well, hopefully all appraisers are as nice and kind as Joseph.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have a personal go-to appraiser within your contact list, because when a referral calls for an appraiser, you want to make sure to have someone to go to. Don't say, hey, I remember that one video I saw and there was an appraiser there. I can't remember his name, because you won't remember his name. I get a lot of people calling the person that interviewed me and asking them, hey, what was that appraiser's name again? Yeah. So I always suggest that my name's not that important. Just in your contacts, put appraiser, and in the next note, put my name, Joseph Cubas, put my number on there, and that way all you have to think of is type up appraiser, and if my number pops up, you're in good hands. If it doesn't, hit the delete button, whoever popped up, and add my number to it.
Joseph, what areas do you serve?
I'm licensed in the state of California, but I pretty much cover all of Los Angeles County.
Okay.
The majority of my assignments are in the Santa Clarita, San Fernando Valley, which includes Encino, Sherman Oaks, and this area. I do go to the west side also. Okay. Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood.
Okay. And do you ever go out to like Ventura County, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks?
Absolutely. I cover those areas, and the neighboring areas, let's say to LA County, I do cover areas of Orange County also.
Okay. Very good to know. So Joseph is your local go-to appraiser. You can find his info at appraisalzoom.com. And where else can they reach you, Joseph?
They could dial me directly on, if you go to my website, it'll have my number, but always feel free to reach me at 661-255-3983 or Google me, Joseph Cubas.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate the time today.
You're very welcome.